So I was thinking to myself um, about the next episode with the Valanders and what I want to accomplish with that. And I began writing a little paper. It was basically just like just write this down really quickly so you can kind of remember it. And as I was writing it, it became clear to me. I wouldn't say a real world like what is it like in real life, but something that people could understand the similarity between something already created when it comes to the Serpentine Order is vampirism. I guess it never really occurred to me that I never looked at them that way. I mean, I think I've always kind of known in the back of my mind that that's what they were doing. That's the whole reason behind the bloodletting, the prophecy stuff, the using the monarchs. I guess I thought that they were using those monarchs to just access the other realm. It never occurred to me that they were using those monarchs to stay alive because they're cut from magic is allowing them to slip from the world. It never occurred to me that, well, they'll probably be taking those monarchs because they were fading and they're using it as sustenance. And so that explains what, I mean, when it comes to the slaves of the Violenters, too. And that would explain a lot about the Anaku. And I don't know if that's a large Anaku problem because now you have issues of it blurs the line a little bit of good and evil with the Anaku. So are the Anaku these high, beautiful beings that are fading from the world and it's tragic and it's sad and they choose to step away from the world stage and mankind is destructive and they have to deal with it. It's kind of turned from that viewpoint into, yes, this is not true that they're faults, but the way they're going about saving their own lives is pretty dark. It's pretty evil in a sense. You're taking innocent peoples and you are bleeding them dry just for your sustenance. I mean, I guess in some ways it's that. I mean, there's creatures that do that in this world. There's no good and evil there, but I think it's interesting to think about more and more with these Anaku. Because that means, well, it makes me rethink about Lyria, which is honestly the most important element to try to understand because Lyria is going to be directly attached to the story as far as I know. But that's also the problem when it comes to the Trovia. I don't really know how they be viewed exactly. I mean, I should say I know how they are viewed now. They aren't viewed positively. It's kind of, the idea was to portray them like the Romans or view them like, I'm trying to think of fantasy. Fuck. Nilfgaardians, in The Witcher. I mean, I can't really compare them to anyone else because it's not like Mordor. It's not Sauron and all that. But when I think of the Anaku and I think about the problem they have with this I'm just gonna use the word vampiric because I'll have to find a word, but it's just to help paint a very vivid picture. Just vampires. But instead of sucking blood, you know, they need magic that's imbued in a certain group of humans. The walkers. I'm sorry, not, well, I mean, the walker would be great, but more like the monarchs. But if I think about it, if I start to think about, let me just check. Yeah. If I think about, like, the whole process that they were having when it comes to, they're trying to enter the realm of creation to eliminate the Forgotten King, yeah? So they can replace him with their Titan that they're resurrecting, the House of Life. How does that attach to, you know what? The Men of Stone. I feel like I don't know how much I've really talked about the Men of Stone. I don't know if I was really in thorough, if I was really thorough about who they are and what's going on with them. Just because I have, like, many different versions of them, and hold on, let me just pause it real quick. I'm going to have to talk quiet because people are sleeping in the house. But I'm not really sure how thorough I was about the Men of Stone. Mostly because I'm not really quite sure exactly how to word it. I'm not really sure exactly what they are myself. What I do know, what I can accept, is that they were used by the Serpentine Order and discarded, right? They were, I'm going to say for right now, bloodletted, and they lost their humanity and they became a shell of themselves. And they ally themselves with the Forgotten King. Really, other than that, it's very, very foggy as to anything else besides that. I kind of lump them in very, very vaguely. It's not very clear on exactly, how much. I mean, not like the role they play, but I know that it's going to be an issue unless I start handling it. So, I guess when it comes to the Men of Stone, to be void of magic. So if those are monarchs, as it was said, are beings different than mankind because they have some sort of cut from the toil, which gives them what we could perceive as immortality. They are separate from mankind, in a sense, physically. There must be some alteration there at that point already. So when those beings that are already separate from mankind are then drained of the only thing that they're attached to, which is the idea of magic, this could explain why they would be cast and turned into stone. That means they would have been void of... I mean, they already were stripped of humanity, you would think. To be immortality is the strip of humanity. So if they've already been stripped like that, then to take that away, you're left with a husk. I guess I get confused. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, is that more... Do I want to put that idea in the story of the damned, the place where the monarchs are taken when they're used up in the Ajurix Chantry? Would I like it there? Or would I like it more with the Serpentine of them being taken? That's kind of why I'm always like, well, I don't know if I'm going to do this or that. That's kind of where I'm struggling, because I could totally see it in both cases. But in my mind, they're the most devoted, I'm going to say beings, to the Forgotten King. So it's because of these beings that the Forgotten King kind of, they do the bidding for him in some sense, I think. But you would think the Forgotten King was going through, fucking his monarchs and all that, but maybe he has a harder time seeing them, so maybe that's why it's a problem. I don't know, it's really tough to think about. I think the Men of Stone I have a lot of things about them randomly everywhere. I kind of haven't really worked with them for a while. It's been foggy. I didn't really want to get into that, I guess, until I had a clear vision. But I think we're getting to the point where we should probably start looking into the Men of Stone just a little bit and just seeing this vampiric thing of the of the Serpentine has raised a question when it comes to the Men of Stone. So I know that my next episode was going to be the Valens, but that's coming down the line because we kind of understand that. And with the Serpentine, the Valinors, that's where this whole thing came from, the vampiric kind of blood-sucking fucking shit. This magic siphoning. That's kind of where it came from. So it's going to still fall in place. Maybe that'll be episode 2 after this. The second episode after this one. I don't know. I kind of want to talk about the Men of Stone as much as I can and just say as much as I know about them. And just see where it goes and see how we can connect dots and stuff like that. So I'm going to pour myself a drink. And then we can get started. And I think I'll start first with, what do I know about the Men of Stone? Okay. So my last understanding of the Men of Stone, I honestly couldn't tell you where it came from. I haven't a clue what journal that popped out of and why it was there and what it all means, but from my recollection, I think I presented it to Jacob. He kind of took that idea and he really just helped me lay the groundwork for them being kind of somehow involved, but perhaps that they were dark. Perhaps they were something wicked. They were something bad, playing behind the scenes. I remember I tried to portray to him that they were, mostly Quinlan would be the head of the order, and he was trying to he was playing mostly Elastra a fool, but he had his own view, and Elastra saw him as a bad person in time that was tricked by him. But in reality, Quinlan was playing a game to try to do good for the world, but he looked like a bad person. Do you know what I mean? So he definitely, that was my view of the Men of Stone. It wasn't much deeper than that. It was just, he was the head of them. He had to play a very high game in the high political circle between countries. He was, at this point, we would say he's Illyrian. He later becomes a bad guy. He's just trying to do good. He's trying to stop the darkness. But that's confused with some of the actions that he takes because of the way he has to traverse the playing field, essentially. That was essentially the deepest I went with the Men of Stone. It was over time that I needed to try to find a way to connect them to the story more. So in my mind, I imagined these men of stone, because it was Jacob again who I would tell him my issue, and he presented the idea with maybe they're all playing this, they're all just making things move. Maybe it was a man of stone that started the blight in the Blightlands. And I'm like, well, maybe they're awakening the beasts. But I'm like, why would they be awakening the beasts? I even wrote it in the story as such. So what's their gain? That they're in these places, unless they're under the control in the Serpentine Order. Somehow they work in the Order, doing these dark deeds. I don't really know yet. It's very confusing. That's something that we're going to have to solve in this one. Like, what, But anyway, we're just going to keep calm, and we're going to just keep talking about what we knew, and then we're going to work our way forward. If I get too nervous and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. Okay. That's as far as I went with him, and I kind of blanked him from my mind. Then it came up again when I was writing this report. And I reimagined him slightly. I tried to give him more purpose. And here's a purpose I had at this time. The men of stone. They were once the descendants of the Forgotten King. Now their bodies used by the Fachu, which now has become Serpentine Order. Blood they were at first, but now found their souls being trapped into a pendant as a tool, until that very pendant was destroyed with their soul along with it. Their bodies turned to stone, and those who survived were cast aside and imprisoned. It was the men of stone that placed Forgotten King as their figurehead in their rhetoric, and in turn they served him only. Not like the blinded lambs that fell with the Forgotten King. As for the view on them, it was a very piteous story, and they using the Forgotten King's madness to create an outlook, making him seem crazed and wicked, taking advantage of their weakened state in order to do his bidding. That's it. And then I wrote about Quinlan. Quinlan, being a man of stone, he was one of the descendants, the first, and he is trying to break this cycle and stop the sacrifice. He himself was cast down after the breaking of his pendant. He was once a young man not so different from Eris, stolen away from his family and used by the Fachu. After he was turned to stone, he was thrown in the holding area for the damned. It was here that new life was brought to him by unforeseen forces, though none know of what this could have been. His body was given life again. Though in a cold shell made of stone, he was able to move again to a powerful magic cast over him. It was going to be this magic that he lifts off and strives to protect. For if it is vanquished, then so does he and his newly freed brothers find themselves to be just huddled masses of stone. From that point, that makes me remember a couple things. These masks that these men of stone use are keeping them alive. I guess the best way it was described was psychedelic masks. And now there was a conversation that I had with Jacob about this that I'm going to have to find out at this point. If I can find that, I'll put it on here. Then after that, I remember something that I wrote to talk about Quinlan's place in society. So let's just do that. Where are my sticky notes? On the floor. Okay. Albion, and then Whoa, wait a minute. Okay, and I will return once I find this all.
Quinlan's Lyrian, right?
Quinlan is Lyrian. Well, not really. He's actually an Akume, an original people. But
Right.
yes, for all intents and purposes, he is
Effectively Lyrian.
Yes. Now, Quinlan is the head of the, I don't know what the order is called yet, but the Men of Stone. The Men of Stone are all the original guards of the Forgotten King who was killed by Xenaeus, the founder of Tantorum, corrupted by the Whisper. Dove, as they thought he was called. They are the guards that betrayed him and helped him die. And forever are they cursed. And I don't know whether to use them, they're cursed by the Whisper being used them, or cursed by the Forgotten King. I don't know yet. I don't know which one would work better.
Actually, what it could be, that would actually be really interesting, is just about everybody in this is influenced. They might be the only ones that are not. They were cursed by the Forgotten King, and the Whisper tries to push on them for what they did, because obviously they're the obvious targets. Yeah. You already did it.
But they're awakening all the slumbering titans. Now, the slumbering titans were the first creatures on our world. This was their world. They were cast down by this Forgotten King, this man descended from God and all that, who helped man come from the forest. Or not come from it, helped conquer the forest.
Yeah.
But they were subdued by the Titans, and the Titans eventually disappeared from history. But why are they being awoken by the Men of Stone right now? Now, those Titans are, here's what it is. It's rumored to be, I wish I wrote all my notes because this all would come in handy, but it's rumored to be the Titans are all one, like they're all pieces, and they were all thrown into different areas. They were all God, destroyed by the Whisper, like the Creator. And this was all his body parts, kind of like that old Greek legend, or whatever it was, I don't remember. No, he had his body all cut up and separated and shit.
Yeah, Osiris.
Osiris, yeah. So that's kind of what it is, and having the Creator come back is if you awaken them from their slumber, their curse. And that's kind of what the Men of Stone are doing right now. A part of all of this stuff.
And what would that do effectively? Or is it just that we're giving it a shot because we're out of ideas?
It could be that the Creator, or my other theory is it is considered the consciousness, the emotions of the Forgotten King. When his physical body was sent, that's exactly what it was, now I remember. His physical body was sent to the other realm with none of his emotions. So when he's in the other realm of all emotions, he's easily influenced and gone mad by it. He doesn't have his own set. They were cast all over the Yuandra, basically, well, Vas, really. And each one of them is a spirit of some sort of emotion. So when he encounters the one down in Refuge, this giant, massive beast that destroys the town, that is a form of his rage. Now, each one of these titans has their kind of... personality? No, what's the word? Like, they're little kind of like things that are attached to them by the strings. So that's where all the spirit of emotions come from. Whereas they're the true emotion. So that's why you can have rage down there, but also rage is fucking around with Kevin in the woods over here. It's literally this, I don't even know how to explain it, but I want to do something new with this. It's kind of difficult.
Kind of like Shadow of the Colossus, where like the Colossus is a physical thing, or the Colossi are a physical thing, but also the spiritual implications of their existence are massive and boundaryless.
Yes. They all are attached to it. Like that's their conduit. And that needs to be alive so they can stay alive. And then being awoken helps their aiding of the Forgotten Kings.
It makes it just that much more likely that you're going to have a dream about one and it's going to make you pissy for the next 4 months.
It's going to get you. It's going to haunt you. It's going to help the Forgotten King. If I can give my descendants all of the things that I lost, they have my power. They can bring me back. The Men of Stone are working for the Forgotten King. You have to bear in mind, though, he is fucking mad and he's going crazy in there. So a lot of this shit he's going to do is not going to fucking add up.
Which is where you see his altruism and his kind of calm manifest in Eris. his very intelligent deliberation manifest in Vathia.
But
and
he's
his
got this
very
split personality inside, causing him to wreak havoc too. Whether that's attached to the Whisper, or it's manifesting into the, what's the word I'm looking for? The remnants of his emotions. I remember your anger. Your anger must be this, and it causes him to do certain things. I want to make that the most, I don't know how to word it. That is the story. If I can figure that out and make it this whole new concept, it's done. But what I told you guys right now are all the little ideas I have. They're not all together yet. They're all spread out. I do want to keep them vague right now because it gets revealed slowly in the book, which is the best part. You know, that's where I'm going with that route with this high story stuff.
So does Quinlan want Alistair, Eris, and Vathia to succeed?
I would have to say yes, unless his ties are cut from the Forgotten Kings. If they're incorruptible, those two are, I would say. I'd say all the other ones aren't, the Men of Stone. That's why they're mindless drones doing what they have to do for the Forgotten King. But I don't think that, oh my God, what was that guy's name? Mycian or whatever?
Yeah.
Whatever his name was, and Quirtus, I don't know. They could be totally separate from it. They could be trying to stop it because they know something else is going on. Or they could be aiding with their intelligence, but in a way, because I've always wanted to play the idea with, they're good guys. The whole time Quinlan is the best good guy in the entire book. But I don't want him to ever come across that way. Ever.
Right.
I want him to come across as Alistair needs to kill him because this guy's fucking evil. He's probably the Whisper. And I want that to be. But he's a good guy. So yes, indeed, he probably is most likely working with the Forgotten King to bring back balance of the world because the world's going in chaos.
Well, that's why he's always got he's got his leering, senator robes. He looks very regal, but he's always got the mask and the hood on. I'm like, you don't understand. Every 40 minutes, this dude's popping psychedelics to try and talk to Jesus. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's got his ties to him. He's trying to save them. He's trying to save his brothers, and he's trying to save his king. Because he basically was the one who betrayed him, who allowed these forces to walk in at promise of something, which will be revealed later. So that's kind of what he's doing. He's making up for all his mistakes. Bringing back the king and crushing the Whisper and putting him back into the other realm. Whisper replaced him, they kind of just, now you're in my spot.
So it's likely he already knows about Vathia.
I'm pretty sure he knows about a lot of things, honestly.
He's one of those.
Because he's over thousands of years old. You know what I mean? He's not just like, I'm 32, figuring things out. Like, no, he's old, man. He's from the first age. He was side by side with the Forgotten King, which had happened in the beginning of our time. You know what I mean? It'd be like us talking about 10,000 BC. Like, what happened then? I don't know, but he was alive since then. He's got to have a lot of knowledge, but he needs to be kind of nerfed. So I want him to kind of have struggles with it. Some kind of struggle that nerfs him from being this ultimate fucking badass that can do anything.
So does the story with the awakening of the Titans, does the story end with Quinlan succeeding inevitably? Not in the sense that he lives, but in the sense
The original story is you kill him.
Yes, but did all the Titans get woken up, or is there bad news? Are we going to have to figure it out on our own?
I think so, yeah. Because that's the only way that All-Star was going to work. Being the one, remember you talked about the ending battle?
Yeah.
That's the only way it'll work.
So, the bad news, okay? There's this mountain range in Dubois that kind of goes and that's the outer boundary of it. So to get in it, you have to go through a fucking pass and then go across a fucking spiral.
Mount Sorrow, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's you gotta weave your way in kind of like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that ancient city, temple shit that the blight is spreading from.
Yep.
Okay?
That's where Man of Stone's doing something.
Yep.
Or trying to.
And theoretically, maybe a bunch of them or some shit.
There was rumors I had written down of them being seen up there. Some believe they were causing the blight.
And so what Sane ends up doing and where he finds Alistair when he inevitably goes all around, pieces it all back together, and he hunts down Alistair, because at this point, so Alistair just kills Quinlan, and then he spends some time up here, and he's not stopping. He's now got the momentum, right? So he's going after fucking Colony Region 2, but then he realizes it's in too deep, right? So they need to do a tactical retreat. They're not beating the whole Empire on one tiny fucking island. They took over the island, but the Empire is back, and they brought force to bear. All right. Alistair and his mercenaries, despite the fact that they are on a godly fucking rampage, it's not gonna fucking work, guys. I need to get so they can't retreat back across Lyria. This whole they might have crippled it, but they're not going to survive going back through it. So they're going into Bois because one, they're not going to see it coming, and two, they're not strong enough to stop us. But they don't try to go back down. They know, okay, we could overpower it, but we're still going to lose a lot of people on the way. It's almost pointless. So they retreat into the mountains, and they're like, we're fucking dead anyway. I know what Quinlan was trying to do. And he almost did it. I'm out of ideas. Shit is not fixed. We're going to the Last Titan. We're gonna figure out what the fuck they were doing in there, why they haven't pulled it off yet. We're gonna figure out what's taking so long. If anybody knows what we need to do next, it's them. And Alistair's sitting there like, it's just me and Vathia. If I'm gonna believe any of this, it's just me and Vathia. And Vathia's got his own problems. So this one's on me.
Yeah.
And he gets there and he gets to that temple, and then it's like 20 fucking years passed, and Sane's figuring it all out. He goes there, gets through the mountains, gets to the temple, and finds Alistair and the last of his men who were holding it. Him and his kill a bunch of Alistair's men. He gets to Alistair, and Alistair's sitting there, and he's just got these masses thrown aside. He ran out of the fucking fancy canisters and make him talk to Jesus a long time ago. And he's sitting there like, so why'd you come here? What are you doing here? Why the fuck are you still here? And he's like, there's nowhere to go. Because the last one they need to wake up is dead. That's where this blight's coming from.
Oh yeah.
It died.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
It's gone. It's all hopeless. I've got nothing left I can do. I am of no use anymore.
Just watching the world just burn.
Yep.
He stays in it too. It's amazing that he didn't just like, all right, well, let's get out of here and let's go somewhere nice. He's just like, he exiles himself.
Yeah,
because the last failure, because it was probably his own.
He looks at
sense of integrity with that.
Yeah, he's just like, I was. And as he's sitting there, he has time to think, and he's sitting, and Geralt's in there too, Geralt Kirko, who could have been a prominent political figure, but he never wanted to be.
He he fucked up that path a long time ago.
He's got no interest in it. He killed his dad. Even if he goes home a war hero, he's still a kinslayer. He wants nothing to do with that life. No, thank you. So he's with his friend Alistair, who he's been, fighting buddies with for a long time now. And Alistair's sitting there and he's like piecing it all together, just like Eris did when he's going about his business. And at some point he goes, it doesn't matter if I die right here, because if you do this, we're fucked. And then Alistair's sitting there like, okay, it doesn't matter. Like, if I leave, I'm making it worse. Because I'm piecing it like, Quinlan was just trying to do this. I killed him for it. But inevitably it wouldn't have succeeded because I realized what he was trying to do, and now I'm trying to do it too, and I can't.
And you also got the Whisperer playing the mental games with you the whole time.
And that's trying to keep me angry. Because then I realize who I was now and what I was supposed to do, and I did it, and I can't keep doing it. If I keep doing it, I'm just making it worse. I need to just stay here until whatever's supposed to happen next throws itself into my hands. I'm not known for my big brain moments. I need to be fucking patient for once in my life.
Yeah.
And he does, and he be's patient for like 20 years. And then Sane shows up, and he's just like, who the fuck are you?
You killed my dad.
And he's like, you killed my dad. I don't take it too personally, but I didn't forget.
Who the fuck?
And he goes, now wait a minute. He's like, I killed your dad. Who's your dad? And he says it, and he's like, so I know who you are. You're not going to fight me sitting down. He's like, I'm not going to fight you at all. God forbid I win. No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Boy, wouldn't that be a wicked twist?
Yeah, Alistair's just sitting there like, no, you're just going to have to kill me. I'm not fighting you.
Dude,
But we fought and I killed you.
We have to make the readers give a fuck about all of these characters, because that moment they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Like, there's like that stark reality of like, this could turn really bad for you.
Well, it's like at the same time, the entire book 3 is literally answering every question the reader will have from book 1 and 2. Like, why? Who's that? Why did that matter? Quinlan was what now?
But that's
book
like
3
reality though. Like, people try and pick a fight that they either know or don't know that they can't win. You know?
Right.
Like, that's so funny.
And that's that moment where he's like, I know who I am. And it's not like he begrudges the Forgotten King. He understands his connection to him and how important it was. But he also now understands humanity's on their own. You know, in the sense of the Titans can't be brought back. That's the same thing as the, you know, Abrahamic concept, God's turned his face from us. It's up to us now. And he said, they're like, I can't go back out there. And they're like, well, you're going to fight me. You're like, son, I just accepted sitting for 20 years. If I start trying to kill something again, if I start trying to like go at things angrily again, I won't stop. I'm not starting now. I'm not going back out there. You can put me down. I just spent the first 7 years I spent here, I spent smoking fucking DMT and talking to God. That's the best that he could communicate to me. I know exactly what's supposed to happen here. You're supposed to walk the fuck out of here. You're supposed to fix all of this, not me. I'm not fighting you. You can kill me. That would make sense. You can do it. I'm not fighting.
I don't think it's sane. Wow. I don't think sane would.
So that was the first part. That was a conversation that we were having. I couldn't tell you when, and we were talking about. Just get this where I like it. There we go. Yeah, we were talking about Quinlan there. So, to jog my memory and to kind of show the process of my explanation at that time, what I couldn't find is when we're talking about the canisters that were used for this mask. Kevin had made a drawing, and maybe I'll find it. I'll listen for it, and then I'll add it in if I find it. He was talking about how the system would work, and these masks are what I think the guy's name is a Drooly that Jacob was trying to remember. I didn't put that on here, but he was talking about the Man of Stone that's in the court down in the south. His name was a Drooly, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really sure. That might be the Inaku. I don't think that's his name. I don't know, honestly. But I think, yeah, at that time, that's what we were thinking of what the Man of Stone was. God, do you know how long that took to find all that shit? I think I was doing it for 2 hours from when I cut, because I had to figure out how to format a fucking W4A file or whatever it's called into an MP. Oh, Jesus, it's fucking hard. Anyway, so that's what I knew about Quinlan at that time, and that's kind of the last time I really gave him a lot of thought, if I'm honest. Then I remembered this thing that I wrote. Now Quinlan's in this. I don't think I should read the whole story, because I mean it's nothing to do with Quinlan. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna read 3,000 words. Have nothing to do with Quinlan. So I'm gonna try to find the part. Funny enough, the character's name is Quinton. I don't really know. Quinton Espini. I don't know who this is. This is a story called Albion. And let me see. I don't like it like this. I like it like that. She working that back. Know how to act slow motion for me. Just one page, please. Yes. Scrolling. Crowd all around. Continue flamboyant. Gentleman speaking. We shall. Changes of the road. Blah blah blah. Quinn the boy. Dubois. I'm gonna read the part where he's in the party, because Quinlan's a part of this party. This is, I think it's a southern story. Maybe, I don't really know. Let's find out. Quinton slipped into the crowd of guests unnoticed and appeared right in place, mingling and dancing between people. It wasn't hard after all. Most people were looking only to themselves and how they came across to another. It was elegant, that was for sure. The music took over the whole ballroom, and in the corner, the banquet laid out was surrounded by little chubby men lifting their masks to shove one more bite in. The wine flowed around the room in a stream of cup upon platter. ensuring inebriation throughout. It was a sight that was for sure, but he kept his eye to the staircase. Two hardy-looking men stood before it, making it clear that there was no entry unless it was permitted. Quinlan thought many scenarios. Would he mingle with the right person to casually walk up and without question? Some sort of distraction? It wasn't clear, but he knew he must do something. All around him, he heard many interesting conversations. Standing close to make out what was being said, he leaned against one of the mighty oak tables full of cigar ash and spilled wine. One man in particular caught his attention, for he looked very important. He was a man of pertinent stature, standing tall and upright. He held a glass of wine in his hand, swirling on occasion to slowly bring it to his nose, just to smell it through his mask. He never drank it, but only held it close. He stood between two elegantly flamboyant gentlemen, speaking unabashed about the trades between a people that Quinlan had never heard of before. News of the outside, Quinlan thought, and found himself tilting his head towards their direction. Secrecy was no concern here, it seemed. It should, said the first man, with stout body and aging hands. It would appear the roads have opened up for a while. All manner of folk have flooded out and through the treacherous lands in search of fortune. It's true, but to risk so much even after many of the collapsing cities is rather brave on their part, I must say. Can you imagine? Yes, I can, the stout man responded. There is much fortune to be found out in the southern lands. A trek of danger, yes, but what reward would await those who brave the unknown lands would in fact prove fruitful. It would seem we need to act on it with our own interest. I can't imagine what wealth is being squandered on our behalf. In time we shall, finally spoke the enthralling man Quinlan first noticed. I would imagine with the right persuading we could rustle up the right kind of fool to venture on. Promises of adventure and prestige, if you catch my drift. They all began to laugh, and he put his hand upon both their shoulders, leaning them in close. Acting now would be beneficial, but doing it right would be proper, if it's only true. Quinlan was a bit lost to what they spoke, for it was foreign to him. Not many natural folk knew of anything from beyond the walls. No one was even permitted to venture out due to what was called the dangers of the road. But here it seemed that these men knew very well of what existed beyond the borders. Quinlan began to put together something big was happening, but the focus was not there. If he was to learn anything, this man would be the key. As the man bowed out, he casually walked across the room in an almost dazzling manner, to which he stopped suddenly and peered over his shoulder. Quinlan felt a sudden shock come over him of being found out. But as his hand raised, the man called out, "Everin, there you are," motioning to a man to come towards him. From behind Quinlan, in fact, he pushed through, and a clearly young man with blue iron mask matched his powder blue clothes. He quickly joined the man. "Quinlan, there you are. My father's been looking for you." "I would imagine that he has," Quinlan responded. "Don't worry, I will speak on his behalf, as I always have." The boy's body language changed. "That's the problem, sir. He feels that perhaps you and an Assyrian do not have the bench. It's Illyrian now. Do not have the best intention of Albion and her people. Rest assured, the intent of his people is what my master holds dear in growing united Dubois." Again, much of what was said didn't add up to Quinlan. But the words spoke carried a truth and vigor unheard to him before. Thinking of how little folk really knew of outside world. Why was all this hidden? More and more, Quinlan was thrown deeper and deeper into shadow, for there was much more happening than he was led to believe. He was almost insulted at this point, yet at the same time there was much to learn even in this small moment of time. True knowledge. A gentleman began to descend down the stairs without notice for the partygoers. His clothes were quite extravagant and neat, with colors Quinlan had never seen before. He was being escorted by men who were head to toe covered without skin showing. Not even their eyes to be found. They wore silver decorative plate armor and a red cloak covering. Masks that looked very foreign and mischievous. As he made his approach to the landing, he stopped and gave a long look to Quinlan. Ah, Quinlan, there you are. I didn't think you were going to make it in tonight on this special occasion. Quinlan turned and bowed. His face wasn't to be seen, and from head to toe he was also covered with no skin showing. His mask was much like a helmet, smooth, and looked to be a face that bore no emotion. Now, why would I not show up to a place where I actually fit in with my face covered? I finally feel at home. Now, none can make an expression and be seen, for you never know what face I make. Indeed, the man replied. In any event, some news had come up, and we have much to discuss of this deal you mentioned before. Ah, now you wish to discuss my proposal. It was only a matter of time, I suppose. He brought his glove to his face and pulled it down tight. Yes, the time has come, it appears. Would you join me in the oratory? Most certainly, master. They joined and together walked out of the main hall and disappeared. The guards turned and positioned in front of the door. They walked under to face the crowd. That is the end of the little story I was writing some time ago. This might be like 2015, man. I don't know. But that was my first writing of Quinlan and who he was as a person. Now, there's that there, but also I recall finding something about Quinlan. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay, so this is very, very rough. So I'm going to try to read it as best I can, but this is another excerpt of who Quinlan is as a person. We're doing this to try to understand the Men of Stone, right? We'll get to this. I don't know where he was when he spoke this, but we'll find out. We have been a republic for over 135 years. It is only of late our emperor has taken control of this failing system. Our loyalty lies with him. After all, he has let you keep your seats in the Senate. Our emperor is an understanding man, but when one fails him, well, his wrath will truly show. The Serpentine Order was kept morally on ceremonial grounds. This is known to us all. But when incompetence rears its head, yes, we will call into question one's integrity. Now, it is true for over 150 years if we had peaceful relations with man across the channel, in Voss. But new evidence has arisen of a plague spreading like wildfire. And I know you have concerns for your people, well, our people, and their safety. I have learned from my very trusting orator some shocking developments. For this I will turn your attention to him. An older man rose from his seat. With a smile on his face, he stroked the table and laughed. Our Lord is mysterious, for we never know his true intent. Only after we begin to see his plan. The plague that is now spreading across Voss, need I remind you, where man holds his domination or dominion, is an answer to our prayers. He has looked to the final eradication of the threat, to deliver. Quinlan rose from his seat. No longer could he hold his tongue. The plague is sweeping across Voss now, in this very moment, and the payback in mind for centuries ago is your only thought? It's sick. This will affect us all, and you must understand. We share this world. Can you not see? It's already affecting us. Not these deliverers, these men that you so hate. We must beware the darkness as they. We have been tampering with powers we cannot foresee. The old myths foretold of emergence of power that would bring forth change for our people. Promises of redemption and justice. What if a dark being was the one to whisper this into our ear? It was known as the Great Call to our people, but what made it so? You must see, we are pawns in a game we do not understand. I plead now to stop this for the sake of our people. And that's another thing of Quinlan. So it is quite clear that he is always been in my mind in the courts of Lyrian and Atrovian, this marriage that they have together, this ancient serpentine order that was created long ago to eradicate mankind. And I think that he must be a Naku, from the sounds of it. So if he's a Naku, he cannot be this first one that was killed. I think that was a great idea for something else. We need to get back to the concept that was talked about where he was a part. I don't know if that was on here, but Quinlan was, the reason he's a man of stone was because he was the betrayer of the king of some description. Now, it doesn't work when I talked about way before this new concept I was thinking of, stripped from humanity. So he was a human monarch that when he's stripped from humanity, he has been cast as stone. I don't really know how I connect that to this old thought. So, I mean, right now I'm talking everything about Quinlan that's old. Now the new things are that whole, well, he was the first one to be sacrificed, and when you take the men of stone, they are basically used up, and when their pen is destroyed, they are turned to stone. Their soul's been destroyed, but their body remains. So the idea that if they're separated from mankind, consciousness not separated, that one's conjoined, but their body's separated from immortality, he must be the first betrayer. He should be human. It makes more sense that way. That Quinlan betrayed his the king, the guard that betrayed the king, right? I used to think the king was a Zanaku king, but then we turned him into the Forgotten King. So perhaps he is still the one that still happened. I got to figure out why he was turned to stone. So I got to find those old records about the pendant and all that stuff and see what that says. And all these different writings I've had about it. It doesn't make a lot of sense of what Quinlan is and why he's done what he's done. And it's either he's a Naku or he's man. He's a Naku, keeps him old. He's a man, this is something new. Also, when you think about the mask that he's wearing, he's definitely, if it's causing these, quote, psychedelic trips, who is he in communication with? Is he talking to the Forgotten King? Is he talking to the Whisper? Is he talking to another Aeon? What's going on there? If he's working to crush the darkness, and he's warning these Anaku of it, but he's also playing these political games, he must be working on the side of mankind in some sense of the word, but he's also working on the side of the Anaku, so maybe he's a half-breed. That what's the best of both worlds. I can just say, well, he's Anaku and man. He shares both. So this weird, strange conduit thing could be perhaps the maybe men and Anaku can't mix because there's some sort of issue. And because he was a half-breed, and man's consciousness was thrown into the realm of creation, and then the Anaku are fading, maybe he's turned to stone because of that. That could be a theory. I mean, we can try to work that in. We'll see what happens. And I mean, just listen back to this and just kind of think, okay, does that make sense? Could we do something with that? You know, shit like that'll happen. That could be very interesting, and him being a half-breed, and this is some sort of curse on him. But his brethren, because I had to make it say, well, there must be where they can't mix. Because if he is a mix and he's got this like power of mankind, but he's also got this fading of Anaku, well, then the fucking Serpentine were like, just get a bunch of men and then we can create a new race. Maybe they're trying to do that. Maybe that's what's going on at Hill 464. They're trying to breed a new race like Urukai. They're making something new with science and with magic. And that's what they're trying to do with these monarchs, to inject some sort of new blood into the Inaku people, to save them. Maybe it has nothing to do with them getting into this other realm, or maybe it does. Maybe it's a complicated mess like that. There's a 464 is like this experimental place. It's like this it's Symphony Citadel, man. It's this kind of like scientific laboratory, if you will, where they're mixing blood. They're creating a race of beings. They're trying to open the portal up again. They're doing all these things, and that could be exactly what's going on. And maybe Quinlan is a failed experiment that escaped. Now, we'd have to figure out how he's in the highest echelons of society in apparently Etrovia and Lyria. And it sounds like parts of the south. Like, who's he talking to down in the south? He's got to be playing some sort of game here. But how is he known? So then what's the connection to the the other Man of Stone? If the Men of Stone are to remain pure of their original conception, as far back as I can remember, where there are these people that were cursed, and are cursed to wear this mask of the Ancient, and they're part of this plot in some description. It appears that they have fallen into the courts because why was Quinlan down there in the south? It sounds like that's the south. Why was he there if there's already that one Man of Stone down there? Something's going on. And then he was warning those in Etrovia about the blight, about this spread of darkness. I don't know, man. I think the Inaku, or the, God, you want to say Inaku. I always do. I think the Men of Stone are just this enigmatic thing in my mind. I don't know what they are. I like that it's very vague. I like the fact that they're moving between realms, kind of, when it comes to the courts and all that stuff, physical realms. It does make sense to say half-breeds. It does make sense to say what's going on at Hill 464. All that makes sense. That could possibly be it. It's keeping the integrity of everything that was presented so far in its own description. Now, these masks could have been some sort of thing given to them. And the fact that did Quinlan escape 464 or was he let out is something that needs to be figured out. So we'd have to attach the House of Life to this and say, does she have use of Quinlan? I think that's where the questions are at. I mean, when it gets to that point, I don't have old stuff to that. That's just, we need to think of something now. So definitely, I think a report of Quinlan's due now. After the fucking shit with the Valens, god damn it, it's like no matter what I do. And then, 4, 5, so now 2 is Quinlan. We have more on the to-do list. It's the Valens, then it's Quinlan, and then in consolidation of everything. And then the new topics arisen, Snake in the Portal. Got some episodes to go through. But I did 2 episodes in one day, man. That's pretty cool. Well, technically, it's like fucking 4 in the morning, just about. And the first episode was completed at noon yesterday. So it was all, I didn't sleep, so I was awake the whole time. Well, Quinlan is going to play a very big role. There was discussions at some point, and that's one of those things where I gotta find. I have it all recorded. That's the beautiful thing. I just don't know. It's not organized. There was discussions about Quinlan's. I can feel the time when we were talking about this, and Alistar. Now Quinlan mostly works with Alistar. It's called Alastra, Jacob's character. He is the one that's going to be working directly with Quinlan. So we have to remember that. Keep that in our heads. Quinlan he's playing a very high game. And I need to figure out exactly who he calls his master. It is believed to be the Forgotten King. That must be his master, but it could be another. That's why we just gotta listen to this episode and just soak it in and just write the report about Quinlan when we get there. Let's see if this makes sense, if it's natural to say that. So the questions we need to answer. 1, who is Quinlan? Go through his bio again. Just try to remember. If he's this first chosen one, this first cursed one, you could melt both the stories. The first original story was he was the guard of the Forgotten King. The second story was he was the first monarch that was taken and he was cursed, turned to stone and cast aside. Melt those two together in a very natural way. He was both of those things. Make Hill 464 a much different place. Try to reimagine how he fits into this. This could help you with your problems with Hill 464 that you've had previously. Because you remember in the story, when Cyphers asked Nacum's men or whatever, what did they find out in the forest in that area? And he said that his men were accosted by a man of stone. That means they're still out there. And that makes it seem like that these men of stone are working for the Serpentine Order, which the Serpentine Order's game is to eradicate mankind. So maybe they think they have Quinlan. But who gave him the mask? They must have given it to him. Are they using him to communicate and confuse the Forgotten King? I don't know. That seems a bit dangerous. Why would he want to do that? If this hallucinogenic thing he has to wear. I want to use that. I want to use this hallucinogenic mask that's fucking his brain up, but it's also keeping him alive at the same time. It's a curse. Who gave him the curse? Was it the scientists at 464? Was it, like a theory that I had, someone in the cult of Thessaria? Did he escape? If he did, are his brethren in 464 still, and he and that other one are the only ones that escaped? Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe they are still indoctrinated, but these guys escaped, and it's these masks that are helping them find the king again. But they have to wear them. That could quite possibly be it. I want to work that out. I also want to figure out, why are they turned to stone? Exactly why. You know, what kind of curse is this? They were these, protectors of the king that were cursed. And then they were used by the 464, the scientists in there. And their bodies were destroyed. This was before the prophets in Adrana. Now, they weren't being siphoned from, they weren't being trained, so you got some issues right there to kind of figure this out. and see possibly how we connect all these dots here. So there's a couple issues just laid out, and we got to figure that stuff out. Once we get those things solved, things will start being clear on Quinlan, and we can see where he fits in the grand scheme of the story. Because you have all these pieces that you've made, and now you're starting to branch them together. It's just, they don't fit exactly that well. You got to kind of mold them. And that's the point of these videos. We're just collecting data of all these intricate things you've made, and we're just piecing them together one by one until we have a complete story, front to back. The only way you know how. So, and then obviously with Quinlan, what's he playing at? What kind of people is he talking to? Why is he talking to them? Who are his allies? What's he trying to accomplish? If he's working for the Forgotten King, what exactly is he trying to accomplish? And how is it any different than Eris? Do you know what I mean? How is it any different? So maybe he's not talking to the Forgotten King at all. That would be very interesting to kind of figure that part out. I mean, Quinlan is one of the most important characters of the entire book, behind the scenes. He is the most, I wouldn't want to say altruistic. He's the best good guy that I got. As much as, you want to believe that Eris is a good guy, that Naeniirin could be a good guy, and that Anna's a good guy, once you get reading the story, or, you want to believe that Alistra could be a good guy. None of them are. Vathi is fucking thrown into confusion because his father was killed, and he's on a vendetta to destroy the Anaku. Alistra's trying to help some man unite the South under a banner to strengthen against the arm and the might of Tantorum, and he gets caught up and is swallowed whole by the darkness and ends up destroying everything around him in a blind rage. Eris is blindly walking into his own death, being led by a man who is broken and lost everything and is willing to sacrifice another human being's life to get back something he knows in the back of his mind he never will. Naeniirin just cares about keeping himself safe and not having anyone realize of who he really is and what he's really done. Much like Anna. Anna's the most undeveloped character because she's the fucking newest one, but none of them are good characters. They're all very flawed, and that's fine. But if I had to put a nail in it and say, which one of these characters would you bank on saving the world, it would be Quinlan. He plays the biggest role out of any of them. He has the ear of people that can make big changes in this world. And what happens to him in the story, it's to what avail? As it gets on in the story, what's going to happen to him? It's hopeless. It's a hopeless story about hopeless people that almost were good enough, They almost made it better. So that's why the story of Quinlan, yes, that fucking does matter. Because he's going to affect the political landscape of all of Atria, If he's talking to the Illyrians, and he's talking to the Trovians, and apparently those in North Ansar and Dubois, and then he's messing around in southern politics. This man has very, very big reach, and as I said before, just his age, he's been able to accomplish a lot in a little amount of time. Quinlan is, honestly, he's one of my most favorite characters. Now, he's never been written totally. I mean, I read 2 things about him. Those are both just rough drafts. They're not really finished, so it's not like I could fall in love with the idea of him. But just what little bit I know, he's very intriguing. He toes that line that I want a lot of my characters to toe, and that's the line of neutrality. That's the line of like just this foggy gray. You know, in a world full of darkness and sadness and confusion, then a forgotten being lost in the realm of creation was doing right and good for his people. Then he got lost in the path of darkness, and he tried to correct that, and then he was banished, and now he seeks to help them once again, but he's been there so long that he's confused their help with his help, and now he's become this dark being that through his madness has lost his care for his people and is just using them as tools to his own psyche, to explore his own self and who he is. This forgotten king, this being of, he was once altruistic and now he's just fallen down this dark path, and he's in that repetitive loop of he just wants to be freed. And that's the person that Quinlan is making amends to because of his betrayal to the king. He's making amends, and he's trying to help. So his arms got to be reaching in fucking in Adrana, right, as well. The House of Dean and Freyden. He might have played some part in that. I mean, why wouldn't it have happened? If that's what he truly seeks, then he's banking on this Walker thing to work out. But why wasn't he able to warn of the Serpentine's intent? He's got to be cut off from the Serpentine. There's got to be some sort of plot device that I can create to say, this is why he didn't know their intent. You have to. Or else you'd say, well, if he was fucking almost indoctrinated by the fucking Serpentine Order, then he escaped from them, and then he was cursed by them. Why wouldn't he be keeping tabs on what they're doing? Because he knows damn well. Unless he doesn't. Unless it was just a prison system and he escaped. What is his intent when it comes to knowing the Serpentine's game? Is there some sort of fog? You think of Star Wars, you get the dark side clouds, everything. Was that what's going on? I mean, in Communications of the Forgotten King, is that agiled his mind in any way? Not really. Seems like he's on his own in these courts. I mean, there's a lot of questions when it comes to Quinlan. And how I can make him work as a character. He plays a very large role in a game that's life or death. There's no way that he's just stumbling his way through. So we got to think of his connection to the Serpentine and how he was not able to correct the situation that happened with Freyden. It's unless he knows he's figuring out what's going on with the prophets, and he's trying to put a stop to it. That would mean he would know of the Valanders. And then maybe he's searching for the Slop King. Maybe he got so invested in it that shit happened with Freyden. And he's like, shit. For an ancient being, you sure are stupid. Someone would say to him. His sidekick character. That could be it. I mean, it's okay to have that, because with the Ring of Power right under, a quote, under Gandalf's nose in the Shire with the hobbits, he never saw that. Well, why didn't you see that? You should have known. You knew the story of the ring. You knew it was abandoned and all that stuff. Yeah. Maybe even ancient beings are just as forgetful. It's easy to forget your old pains. It's easy to forget these wounds that you carry in life. And when they resurface, it's like, damn. I thought I was over this. I merely just blocked it out. That could be what the mask is doing. And maybe someone of ill intent gave him this mask and it's fogging his mind. Though he's intelligent, he's able to function, but when he needs that fix and he goes to that mask, maybe that's somehow causing some sort of block. It's fucking his mind up slightly, but not noticeable. Just really slightly. Just those things that they fucking do to you. They bombard you with stupid shit and you kind of forget who you are. You have to sit down and like meditate and think like, fuck, I gotta stop. These people are fucking wicked. You know, one of those moments. I'm sure that's what's going on. So another question raised, who gave him the mask? Someone that looks to trick him. They have to have their own intent. Who is that person? Why are they trying to trick Quinlan? This new character. Who are they working with? Do they work for the Serpentine Order? Or is it totally separate? Is there something totally new going on? I don't know, man. Quinlan is like my favorite. I never really talk about him. I kind of forgot about him for a while, but now I start talking about it again, I'm like, damn, dude, he's a fucking great character. Potentially. Just a little bit I do know about him. I already like him. He has my heart, right? He's just another puzzle piece. He's just another story. He's just another character, just another device. But he is the most enigmatic character that I've ever had. And, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm excited about a lot of new characters that are coming down the line. When it comes to, I think his name's Rundolf. I'm going to call him Rundolf. And he's just he's a little troll version of fucking Randolph. That's going to be fucking crazy, that character. He's the character that's like, oh God. It's going to be nuts, man. I'm excited to write that, and then also like the Slap King. Martis is fucking interesting as fuck. You know, it's so cool to think about Martis and what he's going to be doing. There's a lot of big characters coming down the line. You know. Nakum's, I like Nakum too. Anna. But Cypress, man. I get irritated with Cypress a lot. But I like him in his own way. Yeah, there's just a lot of things we got to figure out with with Quinlan. But that's the point, man. You get this something to listen to, something to think about, something to plan. You got to make it happen, you know. I think I've run out of steam. I think I've done it. It's like 4 a.m. It's about to be 4. I shall leave it right here. We got our questions we need to figure out. We'll do a report. Which one comes first, the Valens or this one? I don't know. We'll see. Got 2 fucking conflictions there. But I don't know when I'm gonna jump back on this. Like I said, it's a lull till Christmas. I got about a month, not even. Yeah, it's like a little less than a month now to, let's say, a couple weeks, because the few weeks before you're gonna be pressing for it. So I got free time outside of work. I'm not gonna be working 12s. As soon as that kid comes back to work, then I'll be ready to go. Working only 8s again. Anyway, we'll see where we go next time, I guess. Until next time.